Xavier Edwards could be a breakout star in 2025.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. You can hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And on today's show, I'm going to be talking about Xavier Edwards, how he can be a breakout star for the Marlins this season. I'm going to take a look at the closing situation. Who's going to be the closer? It's going to be somebody special for the Marlins. And finally, take a look at the Marlins' two quiet offseason acquisitions that they made and why I think they will be playing in Miami and making an impact this season. But of course, before everything, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Not a lot of people know who Xavier Edwards is. Around baseball, Major League Baseball, the Marlins are a team that's kind of hidden in the shadows. We're kind of obscure, an obscure fan base, if you will. And for the diehard fans, if you're listening to the podcast, you're an everydayer. Of course, you know who Xavier Edwards is. He's going to break out in 2025. People are going to know his name, not just Marlins fans. And I'm going to tell you why. Last season, in 70 games, he hit .328 and stole 31 bases. It just kind of got swept under the rug. There was no all-star team. There were no rookie of the year votes that we saw for X. But, you know, when I think about it, heading into this season, he's fully healthy. Remember last season, he started out dealing with an infection in his foot, and he missed a ton of time down in AAA Jacksonville, and he still came up and proved what he could do. So heading into this season, fully healthy, guaranteed opening day starter for the Marlins. What more can he do? What is he really going to show us this season? I think the sky's the limit. The contact that Xavier Edwards brings every day to a lineup. He is the perfect leadoff hitter. He's fast. He puts the bat on the ball. He rarely strikes out. You're going to see another season where you're looking on MLB.com. You're looking at the leaderboards for batting average. And old friend Luis Arias, I'm sure, will be up there. There's another name, Xavier Edwards. He will be up there. He's going to challenge Luis Arias for the batting title in the National League this year. Mark it down. Bookmark it. It's going to happen. No doubt in my mind, that is the type of player Xavier Edwards can be and will be in 2025. But unlike Luis Arias, who hits for average, both of them don't have a lot of power at all. Xavier Edwards is fast. The man is a sprinter, and I expect him to not only challenge for the batting title, but challenge for the stolen base crown in baseball this year. 31 bags in 70 games. So every other game, he was stealing a base. That is the type of player Xavier Edwards is. 31 in 70. We could see a scenario where Xavier Edwards steals 70, 80 bases this season. The sky's truly the limit when it comes to this player. Now, for those of you concerned about his defense, yes, he's probably not a true shortstop. That's the direction that a lot of scouts have leaned towards, and he's playing there by necessity. The Marlins don't have a true shortstop on the major league roster. Of course, they have guys in the minor league system. Look at Starlin Caba, but he's years away. So with Otto Lopez playing second base, where Edwards would probably slot in if everything was a perfect world, then X will play shortstop. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I don't think he's a disaster there. I think he can play average just enough defensively where it's not going to be a major problem for the Marlins. And I do think, given the way the organization has handled players defensively and try to handle this organization moving forward, getting players who can play shortstop at a elite Gold Glove level with Starlin Caba in the organization, I don't think the Marlins feel as bad about Edwards' defense as some people might bring up. I think he can be just fine defensively. So that's not going to take away from what I expect he could have an all-star caliber season. Every team gets an all-star. Why can't X be it? X, Xavier Edwards, he is going to show Major League Baseball what he can do. And I'm super, super excited for more fans around the game of baseball to know his name. If you asked the average baseball fan, like a casual baseball fan who doesn't follow the Marlins, just knows the game, they're not going to know who he was, but they will this year. I'm predicting it, guys. He is going to challenge for the batting title. If anyone can do it, it is him. Like, remember in Milwaukee, he just got called up and goes out, hits for the cycle. It's incredible. I cannot wait to see what he does over a full 162 game season. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Xavier Edwards. Do you have the same expectations as I do for Edwards this season? Because I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited. In a rebuilding type season where the Marlins might struggle wins and losses, watching a player of his caliber over an entire season is going to be a true spectacle. It's going to be a joy to watch. I love those types of players, and I want to give credit to those types of players. In Major League Baseball, we always see the home run leaderboards, and MLB Network covers, oh, the exit velocity. Look how hard this guy hit the ball. Look at how far this home run was. Well, let's step back and appreciate guys with completely different profiles. Xavier Edwards stands out in today's game, just like Luis Arias does. But again, the difference is the speed. The speed of X is the difference, and that's why I think you're going to start seeing the rest of baseball take notice. I want to see Xavier Edwards highlights on MLB Network, on Quick Pitch. We're going to start to see people say, wow, he might not hit 10 home runs. Heck, he might not even hit a single home run this season. I think he hit one home run last year, and that was within the cycle. That was what got him the cycle. He's not going to hit for power, but he is going to hit for average. And that is something in today's game that is greatly underappreciated and honestly undervalued. I do think the Marlins value him, and they value what he brings to the top of a lineup. And as long as he's healthy, he's going to be that anchor in the Marlins lineup. I want to see him hitting leadoff every single day. And the big key, obviously, is the health. We want to see him stay healthy, no injuries, and go from there. Guys, Xavier Edwards is going to break out this season, and baseball is going to finally notice. Another player who I expect to break out in a sense will be the Marlins closer, Calvin Faucher. Calvin Faucher could have an all-star caliber season for the Marlins, and frankly, I don't think a lot of people are ready for it. That's coming up next. But before I talk to you about Calvin Faucher, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, Eagles and Chiefs. Endless possibilities. Hopefully the refs don't get involved in this. I really don't want to see a ref show in the Super Bowl. But there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, probably Mahomes, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, now that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. Guys, before I continue and talk to you about Calvin Faucher, I wanted to mention the former host of this podcast, Peter Pratt, the UK GOAT, has his own podcast that he is starting up. And next week, first episode drops, Marlins Uncorked. Go over and check it out. Peter is the absolute best. I've had the pleasure of talking baseball with him many times. Go over and check it out, and make sure you're subscribed to that, and make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Marlins, where we'll be talking about Marlins baseball every day. I will be right here bringing you brand new episodes. Calvin Faucher, the Frenchman, or the French Canadian, whatever. What is that name? French. Gotta find out his heritage there. But Calvin Faucher, guys, the best stuff in the Major League Baseball. Is that possible? Calvin Faucher? I bet you didn't know that. 148 stuff plus leaderboard. Major League Baseball has a leaderboard of stuff plus, and that is a metric, an advanced metric that takes into account spin rate. It takes into account velocity, movement, release point, all these physical characteristics of pitches. And it's a new metric, stuff plus, and Calvin Faucher's name is at the top of the list. And wow, I did not know that. But when you really look at it, he has nasty stuff, and it makes sense. And him stepping into the closing role at the end of last season, if you remember, 6 saves. He had 6 saves after Tanner Scott departed to San Diego in a trade. Calvin Faucher steps in and becomes the Marlins closer, which is a role I expect he will continue to have entering this new season. And it gets me excited, guys. I'm excited to see what Faucher brings from the closer's position, because the Marlins' opportunities to win games will be probably pretty tough. I don't know how many save opportunities Faucher will have. I want to see him make the most of it. I want to see every save opportunity he has, lockdown stuff. And I really want to see his stuff play. Now, remember, this metric, stuff plus, does not take into account, for example, location or pitch sequencing. So it's just the raw stuff, the raw analytics that Faucher's pitches have. You know, the fastball moves this much, the spin rate's right here. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of his stuff today, but I want to talk about, what does this mean for the Marlins? Now, Faucher has never been a closer, never been a full-time closer over an entire season. And I think he can take this opportunity and run with it. The Marlins have him under control for 4 more seasons. If you look at the trade deadline, now, what if he's at the ERA leaderboard? What if he's at the top? What if he's just dominating every opportunity he gets? Yeah, he doesn't have 28 saves, but every time he gets out there, he shuts them down. And you're looking at, well, this dude's got a 1.1 ERA a week before the trade deadline. With 4+ seasons of control, he has 5 heading into the season, but at the trade deadline, he'll have 4.5. That is a valuable trade asset. I'm not saying the Marlins are planning to go out and trade him, but Faucher is 29 years old. He is 29 years old, and with the pedigree that he has, which right now is non-existent, the Marlins don't want to trade him. They don't want to trade him until he's proven, hey, he can step into the closing role and dominate with the pure stuff. The scouts look at him and they're like, okay, he's got all these awesome metrics and his fastball shape looks good. The slider is snappy. But how does he handle the game mentally? Because when you're a closer, that's 80% of the battle right there. You know, there's a huge difference between pitching the 7th inning and pitching the 9th inning. And it's great that he got experience last season. It's great that he got out there and nailed down 6 saves for the Marlins. But what is he going to do opening day when it's a 3-2 game in the 9th inning? Sandy's pitched 8. They take him out or leave him in. Maybe this should be the next day. The next day. Let's say Sandy goes the complete game. Let's say the second game of the season. It's a 3-2 ball game. Faucher gets up there. Does he have what it takes mentally to pitch the 9th? And then 2 games later, and then 3 games after that, and building a pedigree so where scouts say, okay, this is a closer, kind of came out of nowhere. We knew he had the stuff. Front offices say, we knew he had the stuff. Let's go trade for him. Because right now, the Marlins don't need to focus on their bullpen. The bullpen this season is a valuable asset that the Marlins have. Every person in the bullpen is on the table. How valuable Faucher is depends on what he does with the closer's role. The closer's role is arguably the toughest position in baseball from a mental perspective. The game is on your shoulders. The game is on your shoulders. 9th inning, you gotta lock it down. I want to see it. I believe he can do it. I'm excited to see this opportunity for Calvin Faucher. Could he be an all-star? That would be something. Again, every team gets one all-star. I talked about Xavier Edwards earlier. Right now, he's my preseason pick. I could see a world in which Calvin Faucher is the Marlins all-star pick. I could see a world where Ryan Weathers is the Marlins all-star picks. Maybe there's 2 or 3. Maybe Sandy, Ryan Weathers, Calvin Faucher, Xavier Edwards. Wouldn't that be something? 4 all-stars for the Marlins? That would be crazy. But the bullpen is a commodity to the Marlins that is expendable. All these guys are expendable. And at 29 years old, I don't believe he needs to stay here in order for the Marlins to build around him. They have to keep him. Again, he's got 5 seasons of control, 4.5 seasons of control at the deadline. Teams love that. They love having controllable pieces. He's not making a ton of money. The contract's cheap. It's something to keep an eye on. Because Tanner Scott was different. Tanner Scott was a rental. Calvin Faucher has so much control. There's no rush to trade him. But if he shows up and just locks every save opportunity he has, and given the great stuff he has, maybe the Marlins pull the trigger. Anything that the Marlins can do to accelerate the rebuild will happen. That is their goal. You have to accelerate the rebuild. At least from a fan's perspective, I want them to accelerate the rebuild. Trading a great bullpen piece like that will only accelerate the rebuild faster. Something to keep an eye on. And another thing I'm going to talk about coming up next, 2 acquisitions that the Marlins had during this offseason, Matt Mervis and Eric Wagaman. Who are they? What do they bring to the table? That is coming up after this. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple. Turn those notifications on so you never miss an episode. I'll be right here every single day bringing you new content. Leave your comments below. Super excited to continue this new journey here on Locked On Marlins. Your first listen every single day. Every single day during the season, going to be talking Marlins baseball with you. Super pumped. And I'm super pumped to talk about Eric Wagaman and Matt Mervis. Who are they? What do they bring to the table for the Marlins in 2025? Full transparency, guys. The Marlins signed Eric Wagaman from the Los Angeles Angels over the offseason. I did not know who that was. I really didn't. I had to do my own research. I had to dive in. Who is this guy? Why are the Marlins getting him? And the more research I did, the better I felt about it. It's a split contract. So a split contract is where none of it's guaranteed because it's not a full major league contract. If he makes the major leagues and he's on the major league roster, he'll be making upwards of $700,000 a year. If he's in the minor leagues, then he'll be making about $200,000 a year. So it's not guaranteed he's on the major league roster. But given that that was the only free agent signing for the Marlins this offseason, I tend to think he will have a role on this team. Comes over from the Angels where he made his major league debut last season. Hit 250 in about 70 at-bats, hit 2 home runs. Again, if you weren't an Angel fan, you probably didn't know who he was unless you know every single player in Major League Baseball and read the transactions pages every single day for every single club. Unfortunately, I did not do that with the Los Angeles Angels. I am a Marlins fan. Of course, go to our good friends on Locked On Angels if you want the best Angels content out there. But Eric Wagaman, I started looking at it. I started looking. Who did he play for? Where did he come from? He started the year off in Double-A, and he hit good enough. He hit well enough that the Angels felt good to move him to Triple-A. And shortly after that, they call him up. So he starts Double-A, Triple-A, major leagues. Okay, so they obviously saw something with him right before he hit free agency. And the Marlins saw something in him that they signed him. They're going to give him a shot in spring training. He played third base primarily when he was on the Angels roster in the big leagues. Played mainly third base. Had a couple games where he snuck in the outfield, but looking at the Marlins, I think they brought him over to provide competition to Connor Norby at third base. I don't believe Connor Norby is a true third baseman. He profiles as a second baseman, but Otto Lopez is there who plays really, really good defense there. So defensively, Norby is blocked from moving to second base, at least right now. Now, third base, Norby offensively, that's why he's in the Marlins lineup. That's why they acquired him in a trade. But with Jake Berger being traded, the Marlins' third base situation, their third base depth, was kind of empty if you look at the 40-man roster. And that's where Eric Wagaman comes in. He's a bat-first guy. And I think that the Marlins saw enough of him where he could come in as a backup or off the bench or even start. I don't think he's going to take over nor be on the depth chart, but to come in a couple days a week, maybe you could throw him in left field, give somebody a break, third base, he could DH. He's somebody that the Marlins felt confident enough to give a shot. And I'm excited. I want to see all types of competition in spring training. And if he hits, I don't care if he's 27 years old. Let him play. You should be able to earn your way into a role on the Marlins in 2025. That's what it's about. Nobody is guaranteed anything in life, anything in baseball. Eric Wagaman has worked his tail off in the minor leagues. Finally debuted with the Angels, comes over to Miami. It's a perfect scenario for him. Hey, I can come out here, I can work hard, show what I can do with the bat, and get some playing time. The other acquisition the Marlins made, trading Vidal Brujan, who coincidentally was designated for assignment when they signed Eric Wagaman. So they DFA'd Brujan, and then they traded him to the Cubs for Matt Mervis. Matt Mervis was a former top 100 prospect, first base prospect. Just as recently as 2023, he was ranked as right at the top of first base prospects. with Kyle Manzardo. Xavier Isaac was on that list. If you're looking at the prospects at that time, Matt Mervis, he was a name mentioned. Chicago Cubs. It didn't work out. It did not work out for Matt Mervis in Chicago. He got 2 opportunities, 2023 and 2024. Both times short opportunities, but he just couldn't figure out Major League hitting. And the great thing about this move, it's no risk, high reward. Mervis has 82 career home runs in the minor leagues. He has pop. Couldn't figure it out as a Cub. Can he figure it out as a Marlin? Again, another storyline to watch. What if he does? Then you reap the benefits. You have somebody 26 years old, former top prospect. Hey, it took a couple years to figure out, but he did. He figures it out, and he's hitting 25 bombs this season. I think they bring him in because Jonah Bride is your other main option at first base. Jonah Bride, 70 games last season, much like Xavier Edwards, a lot to prove over a full season. And Mervis comes in. He's a lefty. Bride's a righty. You can platoon them. You can give Mervis starts against righties. You can give Bride starts against lefties. However you want to do it, it provides competition at the first base position. And the worst case scenario is, hey, Mervis doesn't figure it out. He doesn't figure it out. The power doesn't play. The swing and misses continue. And you eventually cut ties. You eventually DFA. But heading into the spring, I'm positive. I am positive about every Marlins player. Every Marlins player, and only these 2 acquisitions that I'm talking about, they offer value. They can offer value and provide competition for the guys ahead of them. So Bride and Mervis at first base. You got Bride and Mervis at first. Third baseman Connor Norby, Eric Wagaman. You can put Mervis, you can put Wagaman as a DH, and this isn't even factoring in if Davison De Los Santos makes the roster, who can DH or play first base. So I'm excited to see these new acquisitions play. You have an opportunity for Mervis to prove that he belonged as a top 100 prospect, to play into his talents. He wasn't a top 100 prospect. He wasn't highly rated for nothing. He has talent. It's about tapping into that potential. And we see that. We saw that last season with Jonah Bride. Jonah Bride was awful for Oakland. He was awful. He comes over to Miami. It's a low risk move, and pleasant surprise. You look up. It's August, and okay, Jonah Bride. There you go. There's some power. There's some contact, and he's playing above average offensively. That's striking gold. Maybe the Marlins can strike gold with Matt Mervis as well. Again, with Jonah Bride, I want to see how he does over a full season. The way I feel with Matt Mervis and Eric Wagaman, they're ready to jump on any opportunity that is given them. That's what is great about the game of baseball, is you work hard, you go out, you're attacking the batting cages, you're hitting. Teams notice that. Okay? Teams notice that. That's what they noticed in Wagaman. He played himself into debuting and living out his dream in Major League Baseball with the Angels. And now he gets a shot to do it again with Miami. Matt Mervis, you got all the power in the world. How are you going to adjust to translate that power onto the Major League field? You have a shot in Miami. With a rebuilding team, you have a shot. Go out, make the most of it. Make the most of your opportunity. It's going to be great. I want to thank you guys for listening to Locked On Marlins and watching Locked On Marlins. If you're on the YouTube channel, don't forget to leave your comments below. I want to hear from you guys always. And thank you. Thank you once again for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And on tomorrow's show, for all you everyday listeners out there, I'm going to be talking about the return of the Sandman, Sandy Alcantara. That's coming up tomorrow. Until then, be safe and let's go fish.